Oh, there we are.
Was it not gonna let me? Oh, no, I want it on there.
7 o'clock. I'll call the meeting to order, and I'll lead us in a pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll have roll call
Okay, Supervisor Bowser,
here.
I'm here. Treasurer Kowalski.
Here.
Trustee Woods,
Here.
Trustee Wright.
Here.
5 present. You have a quorum.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll motion to approve the agenda.
Your support.
Sport.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same. Motion carried. Reports. Missed issues, they're in there. Fire chief, you have anything to say or?
You're for 210 calls as of today.
Okay. Treasurer's report.
Yeah, so it's in your packet. Just a note. We have a bond at Sturgis Bank that's maturing. Actually matured on the 13th, so I'll be moving that money to Marshall Community Credit Union at 4.57% for 10 months or 4.23 for 24 months. So we'll kind of continue to build out our CD ladder.
Okay, thank you. Station 1, I guess we can bring Aaron up for that.
So this, all things go well, this will be my last report on Fire Station 1. Few updates since I last presented. There was a 5th bulletin that was issued to the plan set. Primary revisions were we added some detailing related to the concrete that was placed to give the contractor some more direction on where the reinforcement was to go, joint spacing, things of that nature. And then we revised some of the grading connecting to 15 Mile, primarily related to MDOT's improvements. So 15 Mile or Myron Avery is going to be reconstructed here in the next couple months. We wanted to make sure our documents matched up now that they had advanced that design since we last spoke. So those were provided to all the relevant parties, including the zoning administrator. So those documents have all been transferred, and yeah, things have been going well. So primary things that have happened in the last month is obviously site paving has started. They still have to top the asphalt or add the wearing course. So the base course is down. All exterior concrete is done. Landscaping will be starting this week. And then that should primarily finish up all the exterior work on the project. The one thing we're waiting on right now on the outside is Consumers Energy's pole is still in the way. If you see in the middle of the driveway, original schedule was for today, tomorrow for them to relocate the pole. It obviously didn't happen today. So I've been following up with them to try and see when that's going to happen. But emails last week suggested it happen either today or Tuesday. So once that's done, there is a Comcast overhead line that's on there that's going to have to get rerouted with those new pole locations. So Comcast obviously provides service to this building. So that is being coordinated between the two parties, Consumers and Comcast, as they work through that. So we can get that final pole removed this week, and then final paving would happen next week, assuming that schedule is met. I've provided kind of a three-week outlook here for the next major completion dates that Morton has. Again, a lot of these have really been dependent upon getting power to the building. There's a transfer switch that should be arriving this week, which will allow a lot of that interior electrical work to finish up. Few highlights that are happening. Cabinets went in late last week. Let's see here. Plumbing fixtures for the bathrooms, restroom partitions, doors and hardware, that's all happening in the next week and a half. Final cleaning of the apparatus bay, or final cleaning of the building, apparatus bay, trench drain grates will get finalized, striping inside the building, and then a final coat for the concrete inside the apparatus bay happens the week of June 30th. And then some of these dates are TBD, obviously dependent upon getting that transfer switch installed and consumers getting up. So that's really the linchpin in the schedule right now is consumers' power, getting the transfer switch installed, so we can submit for an occupancy permit the week of June 30th. So June 30th is the current target date for an occupancy permit. Two main items I know that will be on a punch list once that's completed. The Generac backup generator is not going to arrive until mid-July. It's based on the delivery timeline. And then the fencing for the dumpster enclosure is not going to arrive until about September this year because Jay has very specific taste. So we got to make sure the dumpster enclosure matches his needs. So that'll happen later in the summer. It's all in order. We're just waiting on those pieces. So, and I don't know if we need to get into it in great detail, but I know Maida has provided Seth with a bill of sale document for his review. So this would be the final transfer of the building from Maida to the township, dependent upon the occupancy permit, and then a final sign off by the township representatives. And then within that document, we'll outline those punch list items that need to be completed with a target date for completion. So Generac generator being one thing, dumpster enclosure being another. I know there's a couple things, Jay, that Morton's working on, like there's a couple damaged, like steel siding and stuff like that, that they're gonna have to get replaced as part of their punch list clean out. And we'll have that list developed and included with other than that, not a whole lot else to report. So really the big dates, the week of June 30th, going for occupancy permit before the 4th, and then getting that finished up. So
the Comcast electric rerouting with the pole, will there be an outage?
not that, so I'm coordinating with a gentleman by the name of Josh. He services this area, not to my knowledge. So they're gonna set the new pole, add a new line to the new pole, and then currently they go underground. So they'll go underground, reset that existing line, and at that point, they would decommission the pole that's in the way. So they basically have to construct the new pole first, get everything moved over to the new pole to allow them to decommission the existing pole.
Does that include the Comcast portion?
Yeah. So that'd be a part of that work. So they're working in tandem as part of their work order system that they have, so.
And I didn't hear you mention it, you might have, but the wireless internet connection to the buildings?
Yes. So that hasn't been completed yet, but it's part of the final completion list item. So
Okay.
there'll be a point-to-point connection between this facility and the fire station as part of this next few weeks that we got to finish up. So Park Communication has to put that in, but it's on the list.
And I missed it, Aaron. When would, is the punch list gonna be completed like that? Like,
So the final item, my expectation would be is the fence, which isn't until September. And that's just because back order on that specific fence type, it had to be ordered and it's just not going to be here. It's a powder coated aluminum privacy fence. So that'll get installed as soon as it arrives.
but in terms of the list itself, like, does Jay have eyes on that? Like, what's on that list as well? I just
I
want
don't want to speak for Jay, but Jay watches that fire station probably
I know.
closer than I do. So if there's anything that's going to get picked up, I mean, they'll do a final walkthrough to make sure anything that's, you know,
Okay,
out of whack or needs to be fixed will be identified as part of that list, you
Okay.
know. There's
I-
always a piece of trim here, you know, a piece of metal fab that needs to
Yeah.
get reworked, so. And then there was a question last time and I didn't have a very good answer for it regarding warranty information.
Hmm.
So I did provide the base warranty information from Morton Building for the structure itself. And that is, it'll get transferred as part of the bill of sale, but it's written as it's written for the current property owner. So the property owner is Marshall Township, so that would be you guys. So that's the warranty information that Morton provided, so you guys to review.
The asphalt, I know you put down a base layer of asphalt. When the pole gets removed, will you just put basically
No.
that final layer over it and?
No, so there's a few things they're gonna have to do. One, they have to prepare the subgrade in general. They have to take special consideration where that pole was because consumers isn't known for backfilling poles the way they probably should. So that'll have to be addressed. Where the current boundary is, will have to be cut because if you imagine when you're paving asphalt and then compacting it, your worst zone for compaction is right on the edge, right? Because it's gonna wanna squeeze out. So they're gonna do a saw cut around that entire edge, tack coat it, and then put down your base layer of asphalt, and then just pave it all at once they go back and do it. So, yeah, but they gotta prep it first.
So probably just one more question, but so if I understood you correctly, the intent, and I assume this ultimately comes from Maida, intent you have is occupancy permit on June 30th. And the expectation is the township could take possession shortly after, but then there's this punch list of things that still have to happen. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so my understanding is based on the agreement between Maida and the township, the transfer happens at the point when the occupancy permit is obtained. To be completely upfront, there's still gonna be items that we have to finish off, right? Like for sure the generator, for sure this dumpster enclosure, whatever other things that Morton has to fix over these next few weeks or after that's obtained. So yes, there will be a list of items that would be attached to the bill of sale agreement, basically finalizing this transfer that Maida is obligated to complete as part of the construction contract.
thank you.
All right.
Sheriff, enhanced patrol activity.
Start off with the new construction speed limits and whatever. I spent quite a bit of time with the project manager for Hoffman's to make sure that that was correct, because it's 35 in one direction and 45 in the other. And as it is today, it is correct with the plan that was approved by MDOT, even though it looks like it's all screwed up. It is correct. So that took a little bit of time. I had 21 stops out of 19 hours this month, 8 tickets, and we had 4 arrests, a suspended and 3 different warrants. And I got a few pretty decent ones. We got an 84 and the 45 there. So that was worth chasing. So, do we have any questions or any tips that have been called in that we need to look at? Okay, I'm gonna be out until about June. There's gonna be some of the other road patrol people that are gonna take up some of those times there and fill in for me, but August, I should be back in August, so, ready to go. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Rod Houghton.
Thanks for the opportunity for me to provide an update on Campbell County Senior Services and all the work that we're doing right now. I will try to be concise and be respectful of time, but wanted to just let you know that in 2024, we ended up providing 181 services to older adults living in Marshall Township. And we track services closely around the county to ensure that, again, we're making sure that all the residents, older adult residents and caregivers in the county know about the services that we fund through the millage and have access to them. We have the annual report almost done. It's at County Communications now. Should be printed in the next couple of weeks. We'll make that available and not only you'll be able to see Marshall Township data, but also just data from all the townships, and cities around the county. Again, I wanted to just also acknowledge in terms of the service, Bob Ling. Bob serves on our Senior Millage Allocation Committee, and he and the rest of the committee do a wonderful job ensuring that we're practicing good stewardship with senior millage dollars. And so I'm grateful to Bob for his service and representation for Marshall Township. A few things going on that I just want to bring to your attention. We do have coming up in July, our annual centenarian event where we honors older adults 99 and up to celebrate their years on this planet. And I wanted to acknowledge three that we're going to be honoring here in the Marshall area, including Alma Jean Bassert. Is that family? All right, very good. Leona Walbeck and Erlene Washburn. There are a total of 14 centenarians that we're going to be honoring this July with special celebration for them. We do this every year, and it really is great for both, not just the centenarian, but their family as well. So we'll be doing that at the Marshall United Methodist Church. Wanted to bring to your attention too, we during the pandemic, we started a program called Senior Ambassadors. It's a peer-to-peer program where we train older adults to support other older adults with living in their community and neighborhoods and so on, to provide services about programs in the community. And so we're really looking to grow that program, bringing that to your attention because we'd like to get a couple more senior ambassadors in Marshall Township. So if you know of somebody who you think would be enjoy something like this where we train them and they're really, again, making themselves available to other older adults in the community as they have questions about services that might be needed and available to them. And we train them and we work closely with them, not only in Marshall Township, but throughout the county. So if you know somebody, I'm going to leave a couple cards here. This is just a little more information on the Senior Ambassador Program so that we might be able to do that. And I'm happy to answer any questions you might have, but like I said, I wanted to be concise.
Questions? No, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Nick, you want to give us anything on the planning commission?
Well, it's been kind of a quiet couple of months with the planning commission. We're working with, the zoning administrator, SCMTCI, is working with the Dave Brown situation. That whole relationship seems to have merged into something pretty decent now. So we're giving them time to come up to code, and the relationship seems to be a whole lot better than what it was previously. And there is a ZBA being worked on, Zoning Board of Appeals, sometime in July. And I know Jeff's in charge of setting that one up, but that will cover like probably at least 3 issues, I think. Could be more coming by the time it factors out, but that's about it.
All right, thank you. Matt, you want to give a report? Or?
Thank you, Supervisor Bossert and rest of the Marshall Township Board. Good evening. I'm Matt Saxton, County Commissioner for 6th District, which represents Marshall Township as well. Just wanted to stop out tonight to see if you guys had anything for me or the county. But I did want to share a brief update from Christine at the road department. When I talked to her earlier today, she said all the spring pothole patching is completed countywide, so if there's areas that you think they missed in the township, let them know. But those should be all done, or if there's spots they need to go redo, can let them know, or I can pass that along to them as well. But the chip and seals have all been completed in Marshall Township. And except for they have some fog sealing to do, which I think she said was gonna be August. And they have at least graded and brined all the gravel roads in the county. Unless there is gonna be a re-gravel on those, they may not have done that if that's scheduled for more. And I know, I believe in May it was, maybe it was just last month, but you guys requested a conversation about the renaming of the road out front here in Michigan Ave. I did ask Administrator Scott about that today. She's been in discussion with MDOT because they're involved on the Michigan Ave portion of that. And she mentioned to MDOT that the township needs to be heavily involved with that discussion as well. So I think she's planning to try and get some meetings coming up soon to get those started. So the address changes and all those things can be done when work is complete, but we're a little ways away from that at this time. Be the night.
All right, thank you.
I got something. Over the past year at least, and especially over the last couple of months, the traffic situation at Hughes and South Kalamazoo is just horrendous. And is there anything that can be done with that?
Well, City of Marshall and MDOT would have to work on that intersection. I did see there was an accident there the other day, and on Facebook, every time there's an accident there, they bring it up that they occur every day, which if you go into the traffic accidents, they're not as great as they seem to be on social media. But also in the traffic accident data doesn't include near misses. So
Right.
we don't know how many of those there are because they don't get reported when there's no accident, obviously.
And a lot of that just
But
leads
it's-
into the,
So in MDOT because of the old 27 intersection there.
just the increased traffic over the last year. It was saying just from strictly a safety concern that it could be addressed more strongly by the city and MDOT. Don't know if maybe a push from the county could
Well, they would have to do
push that along. a
traffic
bit.
study and
Yeah,
decide whether they can put a stoplight in there. It's already a one or two-way stop anyways. I
Mhm.
don't think you would ever see a four-way stop there unless it's a lighted intersection, but the talk of that intersection has been going on a lot longer than the last year or the last 6 months. It went on the whole time I was with the sheriff's office for 27 years. And every time there's another accident there, the conversation comes up
Yeah.
that it's a terrible intersection and needs a light at it, but so.
I'll just mention one other thing, and I'm only bringing it up because Joanna brought it up to me and Ron Quinn brought it up to me. On the intersection of H Drive North and Verona. Last year we had H Drive North was repaved, but there's like a good chunk of pavement on H Drive North that like on the west side of Verona. It's like a big like huge triangle that was not repaved at that time. And so it was just, people were like, is that not considered part of H Drive North when it was repaved? Because there's a huge pothole right there at that intersection. Or if and when Verona's done, will it be done? Because the concern is like neither road will take that triangle that was kind of left from when they redid it. And I can speak to the fact that it was redone at the same time that Hoffman Brothers brought that water line across the road. So I don't know if that prevented them from going all the way up to,
I'm
Yeah.
trying,
yeah.
I don't go on Verona much
Yeah.
anymore, but I'm trying to envision that intersection, but I can go out and look at
Yeah,
it and
it's,
pose your question to Christine and ask,
yeah, okay.
get with
It
you.
was just something two other people brought up and
It's quite a drop off.
it is quite a, yeah.
Matt, also, I think besides the road naming, one of the things we were pushing for, I think, was that 15
Primary road.
or let's say it becomes 15 mile, right? Because I think that could be the direction. Become a primary road, right? Because of the change in the traffic distribution with the boulevard being connected to that. So you might mention that to Christine.
No, that was brought up. I just didn't add that one in my comment, but thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right, thank you, Matt. Okay, we don't have any communications. At this time, we'll open it up for public comment on a listed item or agenda items.
Is that on? There we go. Julie Bryant, Squaw Creek. I have a couple things that just kind of came up while we were sitting here listening to these guys. And then something that seems to be kind of lagging. I've been to 3 meetings so far, this being the 3rd, and we still don't have any idea of why our office manager, who's making $47,000 a year for 4 days work, less than 8 hours a day, and who's not coming in for the 4th day because he's got another job. What are we doing with this? I know Mick talked about looking at everybody's. Hey, guys, I'm over here.
Yep, I'm writing your notes down.
Okay.
Sorry.
I know that Mick had talked about looking at everybody's jobs, which I really don't understand that, Mick, sorry. It doesn't make sense when you're trying to figure out one guy's job, why you got to figure out everybody else's job. It's taking things totally off base. Okay, but I mean, I'd like to have that job. That's more than I make, and I work 5 days a week, 8 hours a day. So, anyway, that's been on my mind. And then the second thing is, in regards to the fire station, did we have a generator at the old place? We do.
Right out this window.
Okay. So from my little bit of knowledge about Generac, they run anywhere for a household of $8,000 to $16,000. And then on larger billings, they can go up to $20,000. So how much are we paying for this and who is paying for this? Is this another thing that Maida's dumped on us? No,
It's included.
included. Okay, what does that mean, included?
So part of the project that Maid is paying for.
Well, Maida's not paying for anything, Glenn, you know that, that's our state taxpayer money.
Right.
So, okay, I guess that's it for now. Thank you.
Rick Sadler, Squaw Creek. Echoing Julie, it's 3 meetings now that this Carl thing is living rent free in everybody's head. And you would think that it would be dealt with by now. All this stuff that is not really in the agenda, but Glenn put it out. When are we going to hear about any of this stuff? Hopefully tonight, I would hope, because it appears that, from my point of view at least, that there's a lot of stuff that's out there and is sitting there, and it could sit there till hell freezes over for all we know. It's getting old. This, I didn't waste a vote, to have no action. That's exactly what this whole thing feels like. No action. We're still part of, we're still paying Maida
You know, they're king's ransom or, you know, I don't even care how much it is. The fact that we're paying them is galling. You know, we have no seat at that table. We can sit and listen to whatever they feed us, but that's it. That's all that they're gonna do. And where are we sitting with the meetings with Derek Perry? That's been at least 2 months now, if not 3. Getting old, getting real old, because they're gonna dump on us again. So.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, we'll move on. We'll do the discussion update items. Treasurer Kowalski items are attached from
I guess we're switching out of the agenda into my proposed agenda item,
Point of order, we are not.
which is fine. I think it's an attached email, is that correct?
States on the agenda, Treasurer Kowalski items, see the attached email for reference. And there they are. So they're on the agenda.
That's fine.
Yep.
So, in the first area, what I really am trying to do here is these are questions I've asked over the last month. I'm not trying to be argumentative, but I think, you know, I wasn't able to get responses, to any of these. So I guess I'll bring them up at this meeting and see if we can put them to rest. I'm, in some cases, I really wish we could have, you know, point-to-point communication between meetings. But unfortunately, I guess I'll bring these forward. So, I requested a copy of the communication to Calhoun County on the Michigan Avenue, Myra and Avery board. I'm sorry, Avery Road naming. I don't know how that happened. I think any intergovernmental correspondence, I think the whole board should be copied on. So did we send them anything?
As I stated at the May meeting, yes,
And-
they were sent the board's motion.
Okay, and is there any reason why the board can't get a copy of that?
No, the board can get a copy of it.
That's all I was requesting.
Yep.
Copy of the communication to Maida, on the 421 approved motion, which I stated here. So again, I'm just looking, how did we communicate that to Maida?
Once again, as standard follow-up, an email was sent to them of the board's action right after the 421 board meeting.
So, again, I guess my question is there any reason the board can't be copied?
No,
An
we can
intergovernmental-
incorporate that as a standard procedure if you want.
Well, and I'm just one person. I think
Okay.
if no one else is interested, then
I think I'm open to that too, just because I think sometimes I don't know, like, if like, oh, I made a motion and something happened, I don't know if am I supposed to contact the, you know, like, or not? So it just would be helpful maybe to know, you know,
Not a
or
problem.
you can tell me like, Wayne, you need to contact, that's fine too.
Yep.
Yeah,
Not a problem.
okay.
so we'll get through these quick. But so the other one was a copy of the communication to the city of Marshall when we approved Supervisor Bozzard as an economic development officer. And the reason I think that's important, I guess, number one, was it communicated? Number two, it's part of the 425, Master 425 development. So I think it's important. So did that get communicated to?
Yes.
Okay, so again, just, I had a question, again, just, we're new, 3 of us are new, office manager, holiday and vacation. I'm assuming the holiday is paid vacation, or I'm sorry, are paid holidays. like the question was asked of me. And I gave him the answer I thought was appropriate. I believe it's paid holiday, but I thought I would ask.
Yes, he's salaried. I'm preparing a response to that.
Okay. And then, and again, and I'm assuming vacation as well. So because Carl was gone a couple days here, I had this question of how does that get scheduled? You know, a lot of companies either lay out your at least idea of your schedule, you know, for the year, and then as time gets closer, you kind of firm that up or change it. I didn't know what our policy was. It was a pleasant surprise, I'll say, to see that Christina came on board to fill in while Carl was gone. I don't think she or I know exactly what the financial arrangements are there, but I guess that's something that, again, I think it'd be good to put in front of the board. But it was a pleasant surprise. So do we have a plan? Is it the marker board in the office, or how do we work with Carl on scheduling?
Very detailed response to that inquiry because it's mostly practice that has occurred.
Okay.
And the entire board will get it.
And some of that's new too, right, Jeff? Like the vacation stuff, because that new legislation, or is that wrong? Like
No, just sick leave,
sick leave, that was it.
but he's salaried,
Okay, yeah,
so it's all kind of like
yeah.
exercise and an accountant's exercise.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then because it was germane to direction I was given at the last meeting, I requested any copy of a blanket bond or surety bond that Marshall Township covers. It's through I assume through our insurance policy. As we'll talk about, and I think you put in the packet, the county, as I understand it, covers us for, I'll say, taxing authorities beyond Marshall Township, because I think the wording is that we have insufficient bond to cover those larger amounts. But specifically to the item that we were talking about in the resolution that I proposed, if we have an employee handling money and specifically tax money, they definitely need to be bonded. And I would guess they already are, but that was the question. So does that sound like we're going to get into that under the insurance policy, or?
Well, that inquiry was sent to our insurance guy. Our surety bonds are for those officers that require it in the statutory amounts. With regard to the rest, it's covered under our, from what I understand, it's covered under there's not a blanket bond, but it's a blanket liability.
Right.
And there's like we have a significant limit on that. And because of that question and other questions about the whole thing, I asked the insurance agent, our insurance consultant agent, if he can be available, and he would be available in the afternoon on June 24th. If the board members, if that works out, to have him review our entire policies and our entire bond situation.
That makes sense.
If not, then he's going to be gone for 2 weeks after that. He'll work it out whenever it's convenient with us.
What do you know what time roughly he's available on the 24th?
No, he just said he'd be available in the afternoon.
Okay.
On the 24th.
That should work for me then.
So the next one was just, I requested the township investment and depository designation resolution primarily because number one, it's out of date, right? monies were at Sturgis Bank and they're not one that's listed. I'd like to add a couple more, Michigan, class, which is it's a large group of, I think, over 1,000 municipalities and townships that invest as kind of a pool, and they have some really good rates and they're very liquid. The county uses them. I'd also like to add, I think consumers credit unions moving into town. So, you know, I can bring that up as a motion if that's acceptable, or I guess the question is, do we have to revise that that resolution, which I don't know. I didn't see a date on it, but you gave me a copy of it. So I guess the
My
question,
understanding of that, the resolution was actually originally done by the township attorney's office. And it was supposed to be, the wording is supposed to cover that wherever we have checking accounts, if we specifically mention the name of the institution, wherever you wish to deposit, you know, obviously within the law, money for investment purposes or CD purposes, you can do that. And they don't have to be on the list. They just have to meet state statutory requirements. So you can add them you can just add anybody by motion if you wish, or you can do it as long as it's identified in your report.
okay. Yeah, I did talk to the attorney, actually it's Josh Thaw, which I assume is Rob's son. He read it differently. He seemed to think that I was restricted to those items in the first paragraph, which currently are Huntington Bank, Marshall, High Point Community Bank, Marshall, Kellogg Community Credit Union, Marshall Community Credit Union, Southern Michigan Bank and Trust, where we do have our checking and general fund and tax monies, and then Riley Wealth Management. So I guess by motion, I'd like to make a motion that I'm allowed to place monies at Sturgis Bank, Michigan Class, as well as Consumer Credit Union. The only one of those three that I'm seriously considering at this time really is Michigan Class because of the liquidity and the high
Class CLAs.
Yeah.
I'll support that.
It's been moved and supported to add Burgess Bank, Michigan Class, and Consumers Credit Union to the
List of authorized depositories.
okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Probably should have
Discussion.
a roll
Roll
call,
call. Okay.
final action.
Just one question. What is Michigan Class?
Yeah, so it's, I probably should have put something in the packet, but I've been talking to them for a while. That it's basically I don't want to say a co-op, but it's a company that basically represents several townships, counties, municipalities in an investment. And really what they do is they take your money and they invest it. And then in return, essentially, you're getting a higher rate of return liquid account. And you know, essentially the backing of it is that you've got 1,000 different municipalities and counties, and you know, like I said, Calhoun County invests a certain amount of money with them. Again, it's liquid, so you know, it's different than a CD, but their rates are pretty good. I think Marengo is the one that told me about them, and then I started asking the county, and they said, "Oh yeah, we invest with them." So,
They have different programs and things like that, or is it just kind of?
it's It's not really complex. It's basically, here's our rate, and, it's very liquid. You can have the money basically the same day within hours. Yeah, it's just that it's different than a typical bank or credit union.
It's kind of like a co-op money,
Yeah.
co-op money market fund.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so.
Well, thanks.
Next time, Jeff and I.
Roll call.
Roll call.
Trustee Woods,
Yes.
trustee Wright,
Yes.
supervisor Bossard.
Yes.
I'll vote yes. Treasurer Kowalski,
Yes.
5 yes. No, no.
So the next item, it's kind of a personal item. I just need to figure out my IRA matching because it hasn't happened for 2 months, and I called both the paid checks, and I called the IRA, and they said, well, we don't have anything to do with it. Somebody sends us a check. So I just need to work with you to figure that out.
Yeah. All right.
And I think we're covering some of it, but, my understanding is that the L 429 forms, they're kind of piling in. I'm getting some, you're probably getting some, hopefully you're getting all of them, because my understanding is you get them all and then you give them to me and the assessor. Is that correct?
Well, I'm not aware that that's exactly how it actually happens, but any that I do get, I forward to you and the assessor.
Okay. Okay.
Um,
Do you need me to give you copies or not?
Not necessarily,
Okay.
because I don't do anything with them other than give you a copy.
Right, okay. Yeah, okay, so they're coming in. There's a little bit of a timing issue. I'll say specifically with the school system. There were board meetings on the 30th. They're really supposed to have that to us no later than the 30th. So what that means probably is, taxes won't go out, and they'll go out right after that, but, they won't be distributed to residents probably for another week or so. And I believe the statute says early July, so it's not a hard and fast, but I'm gonna try and talk them into getting them earlier. So then the next item I had was just the date for the board of review of the completed fire station prior to the representative approval. I think we passed that motion. It sounds like we're getting close to maybe being able to pick a date for the walkthrough. I don't know if we feel like we can pick a date at this point. What I heard was
Just a question, Glenn. Do you think,
30th.
like, are we saying walkthrough before approval? I mean, like, before the handover? Is that what we're saying? Before the?
Yeah, the motion was made and passed. I believe that the board would review the fire station before the representative signed the document.
Okay. I just didn't know if it was like before or after the punch list kind of thing. Yeah. So, but it sounds like it'd be before we sign the actual.
Well, I think there's a question about the punch list, but,
Yeah.
if it was me, I've dealt with enough contractors that I probably wouldn't be real thrilled with too big of a punch list. A generator that you can't control, maybe, a fence doesn't really matter, but that was the first I heard of it, so.
Maybe part of that walkthrough though is just to see the punch list as well, just to know what's outstanding would be useful.
Well, I think technically should ask you for permission to talk, but, so it might be a good idea from now on, but, actually, the only person that I think is critical for any walkthrough is the fire chief. Cause he's the one that knows the detail and he knows the specifications. We're kind of there for the ride. Uh, um, but more critically, if the entire board's gonna do that, then we have to post it as an open meeting on essentially a building that's not ours yet because we haven't accepted it. There's question if the public attends and somebody gets hurt or strays off. There are a lot of questions that came to me after, unfortunately, after we approved that motion.
So I thought at that motion, I thought you said that we could meet as a board as long as we didn't conduct any business.
But it's still an open meeting and we have to post it
Sure.
and the public can come.
Oh, okay.
That's the problem. Anytime three
Yeah.
or more of us,
Well-
other than a chance social occasion.
Yeah, what I heard you say is if we didn't conduct any business, then we didn't have to do it. That's what I heard. you
Oh,
say.
if I did, then that was not what I intended to say at all. Anytime three of us, whether it's a workshop session or whatever, you have to comply with the Open Meetings Act. It has to be open to the public.
Well, Jay could give 3 tours that day. 1, 1, 2, and 3 with 2, 2, and 1.
Well, as far as just as far as I'm concerned, I'm trusting Jay's and if, I think it would be perfectly acceptable if two board members were designated to go through with Jay. That would be fine, because there isn't any business being transacted and it's just 2 members. Just food for thought.
And it could be 2 at a time, right? It could be 2 at a time. So I think, and then we even talked about it at the last board meeting, does it have to be in small groups or whatever? So, and obviously Jay would be involved because he's been there virtually every day and knows exactly what's going on. So Aaron, I don't know if Aaron left, but can we pick a date for that yet, or?
So if I was gonna suggest a date, I think obviously before you go to occupancy, I think you wanna have a look at. That'd be June 30th, so that's, I believe, the Monday. Actually try and schedule something for late next week. Most of those items are gonna be wrapping up. Give you a sense of what still remains, how those things are gonna be completed, and what the time frame is. So I think that would work. We can certainly coordinate however you guys want to make it happen.
What determines the occupancy permit?
Final inspection by the building inspector, confirming that everything is to a standard that allows you to permanently occupy the structure. I don't know the specific details and my role in terms of determining that. Morton will submit for it as the builder, as part of their inspection sequencing that they've been doing throughout the project. But you have to meet certain standards in order because basically what the building inspector is saying at that time, you can occupy and use this building as intended. So.
Wouldn't we want to do it after that?
Depends on how you guys want to structure this and what your goal is in terms of doing a final review, I guess.
Well, I think the goal was just more eyes on the building and to support Dave when he signs a piece of paper. I think that was what we talked about.
Yeah, but I guess I hear what he's saying and if it's like already and we're gonna like, let's say we do it closer to the date of signing, and there's something like, oh, is this even gonna be handled? And he doesn't have an answer at that point. Like, we would just stop but we wouldn't have enough of us to stop that signing at that point, right? Am I wrong in that thinking? Unless
I'm not following, sorry.
So I guess my question is, with what Aaron's saying is like, if we do it earlier and he says, this is the list of what is going to happen and what hasn't, right? I guess my question is, what's different there than seeing it at a later, closer to the actual signing?
I don't know. I mean, I just is suggesting that if the building inspector, you know, I'm assuming he's gonna approve it, but if he doesn't approve it because there's something he doesn't like, then wouldn't it be better to wait until after? And I don't know. I mean, I don't have the contract in front of me. I don't know if there's some urgency that the day of occupancy, the paper has to be signed the next day or not. I would hope not.
What's the time frame between the inspection and certificate of occupancy and then the agreement signature? Is there a timeline on that you're aware of?
No, I think they want to get it.
I don't think that the agreement between the township and Maida specifies a specific date. Other than that, the transfer shall occur, may say something like immediately following, or, you know, some language like that, right?
Right.
But the intent of the bill of sale document is what the representatives, the fire chief would be signing, be documenting what still remains to be completed, and that, and also for insurance purposes, that the township now owns that building.
Right.
Right? Because there's also, you guys gotta make sure your insurance transfers over. We go from construction insurance to, you know, final occupancy insurance, so there's no lapse in coverage. So it's to define that date and then outline all the things that we still have to complete, right? Which, again, I don't think is gonna be a long list, right? This pen is not, but we have to have it in writing somewhere to show that we're not finishing the job, right?
Right. And I don't mean this the wrong way, but you're making an assumption that we're going to accept a building that's not complete. Somebody somewhere has made that assumption that, oh, you're gonna accept this without a generator and without this and without that. And I personally don't think that's necessarily been decided.
When's the generator supposed to be in here?
Randy said this morning it was mid-July. So he didn't have a specific date, other than mid-July, based on what either their supplier or distributors.
The one downfall on that is if our trucks are there and the power's out, we can't open the doors.
Right.
That part. True. Right.
Yeah, so
I'm just.
the agreement between the township and Maida was not defined based on 100% completion. It was defined based on. So what remains after getting an occupancy permit, we'll have to develop that list, right? I don't believe, or at least what Randy said this morning, a generator would hold up the occupancy permit. So if there are items that need to be done, but we still have an occupancy permit, that's where you get into a gray area in terms of what the township is obligated to do under the terms of the agreement. And I'm not trying to suggest do one thing or other. I'm just
No, it's
trying to lay out what my understanding of everything is.
sounds like we need to clarify that, because
Yeah, it needs to
I
be
don't-
clarified because we can't have the fire trucks in there if you can't get them out.
Yeah,
And I mean, that's our obligation to our residents.
Oh, yeah.
first and foremost, yeah.
so do we, I mean, I'm not the best at reading contracts, but do we need to understand what we're obligated to do and not obligated to do between the point of occupancy and the time that we think we're actually ready to take the township hall? I mean, I think that was, again, that was part of the motion to have the board look it over. More eyes, the better, and, so that you're supported, 100% when you sign that document.
Yeah, I guess what would make you feel comfortable, Dave, on that?
Well, first of all, I'd like to see there be a generator there.
What are the conditions of the certificate of occupancy? It should include backup power. One would think, but, yeah, don't know, it's first time through this, so.
I hadn't even thought about the generator thing till he said that. I mean, you could get in a spot, so.
Okay, well,
I think that, I would think that that needs to be clarified by Seth,
Right, by Seth,
because
because
it's a legal point.
there's an agreement we have.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know if the occupancy rules for a fire station are different than most commercial building, you know. Like I said, I'm going by based on what Morton told me this morning. They didn't think a generator would hold up an occupancy permit, but
I guess, I think Jeff's right. We need to have that clarified by Seth.
it doesn't sound like we can pick a date for the, and maybe to Jeff's point, then maybe we're doing it in small groups or
I think we're gonna have to do it in small groups to get away from an open meeting act.
And, you know, that's, just to clarify that, is that there is no legal requirement for us to inspect it, so we're doing this because we need to. From the viewpoint of being the owner, so we're not trying to avoid it for the purposes of taking an action.
Yeah, no.
That's what has to be clear, and the fact that when it's done and it's ready, we're gonna have a public open house.
Correct.
So the public will be able to look at the building.
Once Jay gets moved in there and he decides that he's ready for an open house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think I agree. I would just say, like, we just need to let Seth know right away. Like, I think that's important, and that's like June 30th will happen before our next meeting.
well, just so the specific question that at least I think I'm hearing is, what is the obligation between the time of the occupancy permit is granted by inspector and the time that it's either expected or required that our representative sign the bill of sale, whatever it's called? You know, can that be out until July 7th, for example? When the generator, I guess it was when the generator was shipped, so I don't know when it'll get here, but,
Well, I think the bigger, like, I don't want him to have occupancy until it's safe to have occupancy, right?
yeah, but I'm not a building inspector. I mean, the building inspector is the one that makes that decision.
Right. And I think we have to keep in mind that issuance of a certificate of occupancy means the building, from the building code viewpoint, can be occupied. Whether or not we decide to take possession of the building to occupy it, to me, is a separate question.
Yeah.
You have to have certificate of occupancy first.
Right.
Or you should.
Right.
If you want to be legal, then once you get the certificate of occupancy, it's like, to me, like a house. You can get the certificate of occupancy and the carpet might not be in yet.
Right.
And the the stove and the refrigerator might not be there, so you're not gonna occupy that house.
The other issue though too is, like, our fire stations are still over here, correct?
Yes.
So, like, once they give the certificate of occupancy, what obligations are we kicked out at? So that's the concern I have as well. Is, like, what does that say within that language of, like, is there language in that document that says that we have to be out of one to go in the other? And
That's what we gotta find out from
Right.
Seth.
that's what I'm
Exactly what
a little scared about that.
Aaron, do we know who the inspectors are on this thing?
I personally don't.
It's our building inspector.
Associated with us or the county or
Yeah. Spring Valley.
Okay.
Okay, so we're done with that one, right? Doesn't sound like we can pick a date for that. And the next one kind of follows on that. We've been talking about an open house and possibly a press release. I don't know if we're in a position to set that date or not. It sounds like not.
Right. But I like the idea that Jay maybe could, like, when he feels like
He's
moved in.
comfortable.
Yeah, when he's
comfortable.
moved in,
Right.
I think that would be helpful, because I don't wanna, you're still unwrapping the bubble wrap,
I think they should pick the date when they're ready.
Right.
And maybe have something next meeting, see where we.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about, is it better during the week, because people go on vacation and, or, away on holiday on the weekend, or is it better on the weekend? But the next item was bonding of all Marshall Township officials and employees that handle money. Sounds like we're gonna get that kind of covered through our meeting with the insurance person.
Is June 24th, all right with members in the afternoon? We'll have a workshop session, have insurance agent down,
Yes,
say 2:00 if it's all right with him.
that works for me.
Yep. So next item I had was, the resolution that was included in your packet. It followed on the discussion from our last meeting. So it's very specific. I worked this through with, Josh, Thaw. I created a document, and he basically added the statute information that's included in the first portion. Along with that, as you'll see in 3, 4, 5, the 5th paragraph, I've included a letter. At the time, so this section says the township treasurer has consented in writing to the delegation of certain statutory duties related to receiving tax payments and keeping an accurate accounting of all receipts and expenditures. So I included that letter to the board. So in essence, what this resolution does is it separates, and I think that was the key. And I talked to MTA and I talked to Josh. It's really important that we separate the duties. And that's really a board decision, right? It's not treasurer decision. The treasurer decision is a deputy treasurer, which we do have, and we're required to have. But it's placing the ability for an office manager to do all of those duties. It's very common. I talked to the Calhoun County, and they have several people at Calhoun County that collect money and take it all the way through to the BSA entry. So it's a very common practice. So if there's any questions, I guess I would like to make a motion that the board approve resolution. I don't know if we give them numbers or not, but you can put a space for a number, to allow Carl Fowler to receive the tax payments, issue receipts, record in BSNA software, make the daily reconciliations, and make a bank deposit preparation for the treasurer or deputy treasurer to put into the bank account.
Now second that motion so we can discuss it.
Okay, is there discussion?
I have two concerns. One, we're identifying a specific individual in this resolution instead of an office position. And as you just said, deputy treasurer is a whole different job description than an office manager.
Correct.
So I'm trying to understand why we're designated a specific individual. And then why are we designating an office manager instead of the deputy treasurer?
So the first question I can at least try to address, I think we know Carl has the capability to do this. You know, not everyone that might be an office manager might have that same capability. It doesn't mean we couldn't make it generic if the board chose. It just would be, we'd have to make sure they had that capability, you know. So for example, Christina's filling in and I think maybe she's even, you know, considering being a deputy clerk. You know, she may not know how to do all of this yet, right? And so there's kind of a,
Would she even be bonded though? Like, you know, like if she's, let's say interimly, if you put it as the office manager and then you have, you know, her come in and sub for that person, you know, would you expect that a substitute to be able to be covered underneath the insurance thing? Which I don't think, I don't know.
I don't know about that. I think this, the second question I think you asked was, you know, why separate it from the deputy treasurer? So the reason I think this is important is the deputy treasurer, number one, we don't pay very much. And I think the intent of, at least my interpretation and the way I look at it, because they're working for me, is they're there to, I go on vacation or I'm sick, or even though Jeffrey disagreed with me, if I died, he does step in by statute on a short-term basis. It says the deputy, in case of absence, sickness, death, or other disability of the treasurer, shall possess the powers and perform the duties of the treasurer, except the deputy shall not have a vote on the township board. So I look at it that way, whereas, you know, from July to September, we're collecting taxes. So it really surfaced because, to be honest with you, a deputy treasurer doesn't necessarily want to spend that much time doing that, right? But right or wrong, the township has structured the way we conduct business heavily based on an office manager. You know, Convis does it differently. Other townships do it differently. We have an office manager that's here 3 days a week that we pay, you know, a good wage. And it fits more with that role than it does deputy treasurer, in my opinion.
And I will also just say, like, there are larger governmental bodies out there that also have to collect taxes. And it's not done by one person or two people. It's done by a team of people in those, you know.
And the county, for example, they have several people that, like I said, basically do everything I've outlined here. So all the way through to the VSA entry. Obviously, when you have more people, you have to have more controls, but
yeah. And yeah, I don't know. It was interesting. I happened to look at MTA's little monthly thing that they put out, and they had a whole nice thing in January about the statutory jobs and responsibilities of each of the different roles. And it does say in here, and the last one is like the town for treasurer, happens to say, Township Department Head for tax collecting and other receipt funding, in parentheses, budgeting and preparation of equipment, software, training, and internal staffing. So it's not something that's like having staff work on that is not something that's uncommon. But it is something that's within the statutory duties of the township treasurer to be kind of that department head of that aspect of it. And I just made a copy of that, just if you're interested in that article in there that laid it out, because I know you had said, like, what does each role do? What are their statutory duties and what is their role? And I'm like, oh, MTA bullet pointed that out, and I thought that could be at least a really good point to kind of drive that home, because, I think it's too much to think one person to do all that work. And I think we have Carl here. I think he's been doing it. I think it makes sense. That's why we have an office manager, is to help out on those positions, as I said last time. So I think that this makes sense.
This isn't something new, right?
No.
This has been really essentially in place since the early 2024. So, it's nothing new. I think probably, it's something that's overdue, separating the roles, so that we have that clarity.
Part of Carl's job right now is to accept taxes and write receipts to people.
Right.
Right.
The only question is, I think this was Carl's question, rightly so, is that as deputy treasurer or is that as office manager? And I think realistically, to be honest with you, with the, amount of work, it fits more with the office manager and not with the deputy treasurer. The deputy treasurer, I'm hopeful that someday I'm gonna go on a vacation. And I'm hopeful that deputy treasurer can hopefully I won't leave him a bunch of work, but he can make bank deposits and he can do all of the things that I do.
But in this instance, as deputy treasurer, he got bonded. It's not as office manager that he got bonded. Right?
I don't know that that's true. The county bonds us as a township, is what the county chief deputy treasurer told me. So,
So when you took over as treasurer, there wasn't specific paperwork you had to complete to make sure that covered your
yeah,
responsibility.
I filled out a form. Actually, I think isn't it in the packet? I think it's.
Oh, is that one? Okay.
And it, as I understand it, so what the county is doing is bonding, because, and it's actually in Jeff included this in the package as well, the MTA article. It's essentially option 1. The treasurer provides a bond to the county treasurer for the actual amount of state, county, and school taxes. A bond may be issued by anyone, not a surety bond. The township may pay the cost of the bond. So it doesn't cover, my understanding is it doesn't cover the monies that Marshall Township would handle of Marshall Township money. It's not intended for that. So for example, we collect money for CISD, we collect money for the county, we collect money for other taxing authorities. And what they told me is that is what that bond covers. So they asked for the total amount of money that we handle. And that's what I put on that form. But separately, we need protection for people who handle money, including myself, for Marshall Township money.
And we have it, and you'll find out.
Right.
When you talk to Jason, we have the statutory bonds and we have overall liability.
Right.
So we're covered, anybody's covered. That happens if it's their duty to in any way collect money.
Mhm.
They're covered by one or the other or both.
So, is Carl still your deputy treasurer or was he?
Yes.
Because I think a lot of this was covered through that. Make it, I mean, and when I read this, and I'm not, I mean, we're accepting all incoming tax payments on behalf of Marshall Township. I mean, I'm assuming you'll accept tax payments too.
Yeah, for example, last year, I have statutory days. I mean, again, the deputy treasurer can do those days. I'm not required as treasurer to do them, but I did do them. For example, I came in over the Christmas holiday and I worked a Friday and I collected all the taxes on that day. I helped, on other days, when there was a higher workload. But I'm not paid, I'll be quite honest with you, I'm not paid like the clerk is at Canvas Township. So at the end of the day, we pay an office manager a good wage. And I'm just proposing that we make sure that that's part of his job description, which I think, we're struggling with for some reason. I don't understand it, but I'm just trying to define that that's what he does.
And I don't think that's different than what was already in there, in that job description, the original job description. It had at the very top of that, it said to assist the township treasurer and the township clerk. That was the intent of that role.
Right.
And then it had very specific bullet points that attended to both of those. So I don't think it's outside of the realm of what those bullet points are saying.
No, this is,
It's parsing it out to be very clear.
well, not only that, but I think it's actually required, to be honest with you. I think we were, again, because of this assumption that deputy treasurer and office manager are one
In the same
are
thing.
one person. That doesn't always necessarily have to be. That language was kind of getting confounded in a way. This is essentially required, if we want to make that part of his job description. And it's really a board decision. It's not, I'm putting this forth to try and cut through some of this lack of clarity that we've had for months, so that we, at least as far as this is concerned, we've moved past it.
And I think in some aspects of, like, our job and our obligation is to make sure that Marshall Township is running and running efficiently, right? And if we have Carl here, and it's like, well, I can't do this aspect of this role, it holds up the township from being able to do its function and its role. So part of me, it's like, we have hours and designated things so that we keep this running for residents. And I think we have that obligation to make sure it's continuing to run smoothly. And I think that I don't know, I feel like that's part of that.
Seem still concerned, Mick. I'm trying to help you the best I can, but
Well, to me, the question's completely different. I don't argue and wouldn't at all that in order to do this properly, this resolution would be needed. And I think that's an all in order. But I do think we're mixing some things that I think are important to point out. If considering that the board still wishes to adopt this resolution, fine, that's what the board is here to do, is to debate these things and to have differing viewpoints on it. To me, the office manager has and his predecessors always were authorized by the treasurer as designated agents under a statute that was passed a couple of years ago to collect taxes. In other words, receive them if the payment came in here. And they made those and to make receipts for them. And then the front desk person, office manager now, would then put those payments together with the copies of the bills in the safe. And then they would be processed by the treasurer or the deputy treasurer, as the case may be. When Carl was first hired, the then treasurer was new, and uh, there was a contract made with the county to collect the taxes for that 1 year only to do those things. You could still make payments here, but they would be processed by the county treasurer's office, and that was done under an agreement. And then after that expired, they then appointed Carl Fowler, who was the office manager. They appointed Carl Fowler as the deputy treasurer, the former treasurer did. And as deputy treasurer, he then continued the processing of the taxes. So I think that from Carl's perspective is where he gets a little concerned about it, is that the office manager and his predecessors never did any of the work putting it in the system or preparing the deposits or making it. It's only after
Was the system, I'm just curious,
Yeah.
was the BSNA, was that system in place before?
Yes, it was. It's been there since 1990 something, or before even. But I can tell you, as the person who did it, that I did those, or my deputy did them if I was absent, would then take the payments and would put them into the system, would make the daily deposits, et cetera.
Yeah.
So I think that's where his concern comes, is that he believes that those were those additional duties in processing the taxes historically were because he became deputy treasurer. He accepted deputy treasurer,
I
which he
think,
probably was the day that he did.
I think the issue too is there's for example, yeah, I'm just gonna give this as an outside thing. The company I work for is an ed tech company, and the job and roles within that company change as technology changes. Carl, when he stepped into this role, he streamlined some of the processes because originally they were doing all these spreadsheets. Paul was doing all these spreadsheets. Um, who was after him? It was, I'm drawing a blank at her name right now. But anyways, they were managing all these spreadsheets that took hours and hours to be able to do. The technology with BSNA made it a lot easier where it's a click of the button. The same thing is being true, in terms of like in my job and stuff like that with AI, and things that took weeks and months to be able to do are happening in a shorter time. So my job and responsibilities, just because that time's shorter doesn't mean I don't have to do anything because I can do it faster. It means I am now open and have the space available to be able to take on different roles and responsibilities within my company to help continue it. The same is true. We can't just assume that a role is never going to change, or that the specific actions of a person are going to change over time. Yes, he was able to shorten that up, but we have this other need within our township to be able to meet the needs of the residents in this way. So to me, I think I understand it's not what I did before, but at the same time, in a world that's constantly changing, with how processes are working and job descriptions are constantly changing, I think it's a little unrealistic to think that my job is going to look exactly the same way as it did 1 year ago, even a month ago, because of how fast things are changing. Now, that's just my 2 cents on that. I get it, but we have a need here. I think we have a need, that something that he can do. I think it's within his job description. He's using BSNA and other aspects of his duty as office manager. I don't think it's outside of that. I understand it wasn't something that was done in the past, but I don't think that that's unrealistic either. So that's just my 2 cents.
What I don't understand is what is the resistance to doing this?
Yeah,
It's one thing I haven't heard. I don't understand. I'm hearing a lot of, I don't understand. All this to me just sets forward an employee being able to do this. Separate from the deputy treasurer, again, I said this, we don't pay our deputy treasurers very much. I think actually, Carl was the first one to bring that to my attention. He doesn't get paid much to be the deputy treasurer. The deputy treasurer is more as a deputy clerk. It's to fill in when we're not available, right? This is different, and we pay Carl, we pay him well to be an office manager. So it seems crystal clear to me. I just don't, I guess I still don't understand the resistance.
yeah.
Yeah, something to say.
I think the other thing too is it signals, it's not like we're authorizing him to do it, we're telling him to do it. I mean, there's not only providing the authority to do it, you're also telling him to do it, which is fine. But it's just in my years of public employment and being a public employer, usually you discuss these things with people in advance, and you have a meeting, at least of the minds. And I don't think that has occurred in this particular case.
Well,
It's just a concern.
we've had 2 board meetings where Carl was here. I think it was pretty clear.
I think it was pretty clear, it may have been pretty clear what was gonna happen or what would be done, but I don't know that he's had a chance to discuss that thoroughly with you, but
Well, Carl and I have discussed it for sure, because I'm in the office quite a bit. So we definitely have talked about it.
Well-
And I, part of my thinking here is he did have that concern that, he's doing a lot of work as a deputy treasurer. And,
Yeah.
so, the scenario is that,
This,
I could be sitting on one side of the wall, collecting all the taxes and then, entering him the BSNA, and he could be sitting on the other side of the wall, looking out the window. It just doesn't necessarily make sense, right? We have structure, and I've said this before, right or wrong, our township has structured our office to be manned by the office manager 3 days a week, and we pay them accordingly. Okay, you don't pay the treasurer the same as other treasurers who do have office hours. For example, Convis have office hours on Monday and Wednesday, both the clerk and the treasurer. They don't have an office manager. So we have structured ourselves around an office manager. I didn't do it. I wasn't on the board when all that happened. You guys were.
and I will say too, I think, one of the things when we met with Carl, the clarity within, like, because he's doing multiple of these different roles, it was ambiguous to him of which role fell under which thing. And what I think you're doing here, Glenn, is you're trying to clarify that this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the whole point, is clarity. We were stuck on this position description, and we haven't made very much progress. All I'm trying to do is make progress on one portion that comes, that is part of what I do for the township. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm trying to carve that out so there's no ambiguity, because apparently there's enough ambiguity where people say, well, I'm not doing that. Here, there's no ambiguity.
And just to clarify with that, I would say that like, when you say my thing, I look at that when you say that as township department head for tax collecting. Is how I read that from your statutory duties.
Right. And it doesn't take the it's still my responsibility to make sure everything's accurate. It's still my responsibility to make sure that the monies are in a safe investment. You know, it doesn't transfer any of that. Actually, I had them take that word out. It doesn't transfer any responsibility. It just it's delegating some portion to an office manager. That's all it's doing.
But it's, in my view, it's delegating a treasurer, deputy treasurer responsibility to an office manager. The delineation of the jobs are getting,
No, it's not. I am not. The responsibility my statutory responsibility does not change.
I know you're, but
I was just gonna say, I think what Glenn's saying though, that the deputy treasurer, in separating that out, right? As an office manager, Carl, if there was a different deputy treasurer, Carl could not sign the checks. He couldn't do the other aspects that Glenn is required to do. Only the deputy treasurer can do those things.
I understand.
That is what the deputy treasurer. The deputy treasurer can also do everything underneath that Glenn does. That doesn't mean that there isn't going to be overlap with what other people can do as well. And that's what I'm trying to say is like these larger governmental bodies have to have other people helping those things in order to be able to process that much taxes and stuff like that. To me, I think it's painting things in such a small bucket the other way that we're limiting what we can do if we don't allow this to also be something that an office manager can do. It limits our township, and I don't think that, I think it limits us in a way that, you know, it could take us too long to process something if we're not careful. Because I know that it comes in huge waves. It's not like we get, you know, and how tax season is. They come in buckets at times.
Any more discussion? Ready for a vote?
Trustee Wright,
Yes.
Supervisor Bozzard,
No.
I'll vote no. Treasurer Kowalski,
Yes.
Trustee Woods,
no.
2 yes, 3 no.
Next item I had on my list was approve.
I don't mean to go backwards, I do have to, I mean, hold up, if you want to discuss that. But there's like, it's like 2 sentences. Leave up to you guys.
Let's get through his,
It wouldn't bother me if we heard 2 sentences.
Okay, so there's 2 agreements. There's the construction agreement and then there's a lease agreement because Maida owns the portion that would be transferred to MDOT. So the township is technically leasing that property up until the point of transfer. So the construction agreement states upon issuance of a certificate of occupancy and final inspection by township, the new fire station will be transferred to the township. And then once that transfers takes place, the lease terminates. At that point.
That's what I thought.
So it sounds, yeah, so they're 2 separate actions, occupancy and
Termination.
the transfer, I guess.
Which I assume would be the bill of sale document.
Yes.
you read that again, Aaron, please?
On issuance of a certificate of occupancy and final inspection by township, the new fire station will be transferred to township. And then the lease agreement just references this agreement, says the lease shall terminate upon transfer.
There's that. And final inspection by the township, which would be come after the certificate of occupancy. So that's,
Still have Beth take a look
oh,
at it.
that's sure.
Yeah, it's very fair.
Yeah,
Thank you.
all right, thank you.
I'll see you guys.
All right, yeah.
Appreciate it.
The next item I had was approved subscription to what's called Positive Pay at Southern Michigan Bank for check and ACH transfer fraud protection at $30 a month. So what this is essentially Southern Michigan, in terms of a check, there's a lot of check fraud these days. You know, people change the name on a check and cash it. What this would do would be flag it, I recall. And then we would look at it and say, oh, no, that's no good. And essentially, Southern Michigan would then send it back to the whoever cashed it as a bad check. Similar with the ACH, I guess this can happen with ACH transfers as well. So and I'm talking specifically about bills that we pay through an ACH transfer. So let's say instead of Consumers Power, you get one for, ABC Warehouse or something. They would flag it and you have 48 hours to kill it or accept it. If we don't tell them we accept it, they automatically reject it. So the default is they reject anything that's not on their list. So, I thought Jeff and I met with them, I don't know, a few months ago, and they mentioned this. I thought for $30 a month, it seemed like pretty good insurance. So I guess I would make a motion to the board to allow us to sign up for what's called Positive Pay. I think we get 6 months for free or something too, but this will protect us from fraud.
Support.
Okay. Any discussion?
What occurrences have we had on non-payment return of checks and things like that in your tenure as treasurer?
You talk about fraud or lack of funds? We've had lack of funds. In other words, we've had checks bounced,
Right.
but we have, to my knowledge, since I've been there, we haven't had any fraud.
No, a long time ago, somebody filched checks out of a bunch of people's mailboxes, including ours, and here at the township, and they took a couple of tax checks that were intended to be tax checks of all places down to Chemical Bank, which was our bank at the time, and tried to cash them. And the person knew who made the deposits, and they called the police. They called us. That was the only incident. So there was an attempt then, but it was never done. But this Positive Pay would be good. We electronically send them process, and BSA has a process for that, and they will be guiding us through setting it up.
I know what happens. I'm just wondering what
They said it's
occurrences.
increasing. That,
Yeah.
I don't have any experience with the fraud at this point. We have had bounced checks, we've had some interesting situations, but. Okay, so we did everything we needed to do?
Oh, we got to do a
Vote?
vote on that. Supervisor Bozzard,
Yes.
me, yes. Treasurer Kowalski.
Yes.
Trustee Woods.
Yes.
Trustee Wright.
Yes.
5 yes.
Next item we already covered, which was the resolution, on the investment and depository. The last item on this page had was, communication and contract with SCM, CCI, clarify roles and solidify contract and job descriptions. My understanding is there's a meeting tomorrow. My only suggestion would be, I really think you should include Joanna Johnson. I think she was invited by SCM, CCI as optional. But she's been involved in this right from the beginning with the flow chart and trying to bridge the gap between Carl and SCM, CCI. So, but it sounds like that's happening tomorrow.
9:30.
Yep.
You know, if Joanna's gonna be there,
I don't know if Joanna's gonna be there.
is there anything going?
She told me that she really didn't feel comfortable coming to the meeting unless she was asked by the board. So
Gotcha.
I can do that.
she was invited by SCM, CCI, but
Okay.
so if you want her to come, you'll have to reach out to her. The next item, I think you actually have this in the packet, Jeff, was the board policies and resolutions. I think you said you were gonna try and get it done this summer.
That's a summer project. And get that all done.
The list of fire board members in terms of office, it's kind of an old one. I think you were gonna get
Yes.
that done by March 31st.
Yeah. Luckily, I didn't specify the year. It's an Achilles heel.
It's just, I think it's helpful just to know
Yeah.
who's going on and off and I guess we're gonna be talking about this, later on anyways, but, just quickly in the PA 425 subcommittee, I'm just gonna mention this briefly. Dave, you weren't available, so Wayne and I met with Emmett Township and Rob Thal. It was a very good meeting. Rob was very informative. There's synergies with Emmett Township. He's ready to move forward. He just needs direction. So to be honest with you, I'm just gonna cut to the chase. I'm gonna make a motion that the 425 subcommittee, that it be modified to include myself and Wayne Wright, so we can move forward, and get some answers on what we can do with our 425 development agreement to make it better. That's my motion.
I'll support.
Is there any discussion?
Just the glaring one, you'll have 4 members on a subcommittee, which.
No, I'm saying that
Well, this is different than.
I'm proposing, I probably wasn't clear enough. I'm proposing that the subcommittee that we've already created be reconfigured to include myself and Wayne rather than you and Dave. And the reason I'm suggesting is we need to move forward on this topic. That meeting was an eye opener for me that this isn't as complicated as we are making it. And if we don't move forward, if we don't give our legal department direction, well, we're never going to move forward. And I want to move forward personally. It was crystal clear to me. I mean, Rob Thal is an extremely adept municipal lawyer, and there's a lot of synergies with Emmett Township. They're struggling with how they want to look at future development. And so I'll just leave it at that. my opinion, we need to move forward. I realize that people's schedules are difficult.
And it's not that, you know, we're saying, oh, it just, it hasn't happened. And so, you know, as, you know, Rick brought up in his public comments, like it just, we say we're gonna do something and it's just still hasn't happened. And there's no judgment. People are busy. I get it. Life happens and stuff like that. But Glenn and I are willing to meet with the city manager. We're willing to continue that conversation and report back to the board and move it forward if you so feel led in that direction. Either that or we really need to start meeting with these things, because like I said, like Emmett Township's, you know, talking with them, they're really trying to be proactive instead of reactive on economic development and being at the table and making sure that they're part of the table when it comes to economic development. And it's exciting to see what they're trying to do to try to make sure that that happens. And so it's just, we need to keep, you know, we need to set ourselves in that put ourselves in that same position. And really make sure that we have, you know, we define that with both our lawyers and we have those conversations with the city. So it's not, like I said, not a slight on anyone here. It's just like, we're saying we're willing to roll up our sleeves and do that if it's, you know, you're just too busy right now, and that's fine. So I don't want it to come across as like,
No, I
we're
don't,
just,
no,
yeah.
I think it's probably a good idea. What's going on, so I don't know what the rest of the board thinks.
No comment. Well, why? Not no comment, but it's
Okay.
nothing to add.
Okay. So that was a motion, right?
Yeah.
All right. Because we'll have a vote.
All right. It starts with me and I'll vote no. Treasurer Kowalski,
Yes.
trustee Woods,
Yes,
trustee Wright,
Yes.
supervisor Bozzard,
I'll vote no.
3 yes and 2 no. Motion carries.
Try to get through these last items quickly. I just was gonna suggest a monthly budget report. Don't know how difficult it is, Jeff, but I just was gonna suggest that, you know, as part of our typical reporting, that we have some progress to date on budgets. I don't know if that's onerous for you to produce, or BSA can pump that out for you.
Well, it doesn't pump out, it's the pumping in that does it, and the reconciliation process that has to occur each time too. So that's why we've done it quarterly in the past, but we can try monthly.
Well, again, I
All I can
don't
say.
know how much work it is. I'm just suggesting it because
No, we'll try running a monthly. It's just that you know, and things can change if something gets reclassified, or expenses and stuff like that. So if I run an April budget report, say on May 5th, and then ran that same April budget report on July 5th, might look different.
right.
In fact, it will look different.
Right. Okay, so, and then again, just thinking through the assessor, there's a lot, you know, there's a lot that goes on in the assessor's office, and one of the things I know that we have to keep an eye on is, we're required by statute to assess all the properties. Essentially, it's every year, but I think the allowance is, a complete assessment in 5 years or 20% a year. There's some allowance for that. So it's just something we have to keep an eye on. So I was just gonna suggest that if the board wanted to add that to our reports, to understand what the progress is on our assessing of all properties.
I think that's a good idea because I just want to make, I wouldn't know. I mean, does anyone on this board know at what percentage our properties have been assessed at this point? Like, I just don't know. So it would be pretty upsetting if we don't have that done by the allotted time.
I don't even know how is that typically just done at the audit, Jeff, or not? I mean, how have you guys done it in the past?
He's responsible to the state, county and the state for that.
Right.
And so if there is if the township has a deficiency in assessing of any sort, then the county usually notifies us or the state does. One of the two. That's what's happened in the past.
Are we held liable in that at all, Jeff? Like in terms of, like if it wasn't complete in time? Like,
Well, if you didn't remedy it, usually on things like that, if you don't remedy the situation, you usually have to then propose a plan to remedy it.
Okay.
Yeah, otherwise it could lead up to the state ordering the county to update our tax rolls, our assessing rolls.
Okay.
I mean, I think the last time anything like that was done was in the early 90s when a former supervisor handled or didn't handle, as the case may be, as we found out.
Yeah.
I was before my time on the board, but we were still dealing with, and that's when Robin Obrinsky at that time was hired to come in and redo everything.
Okay.
So I just throw that out there. If there's no desire to do it, we can just move on, or we
We
can.
can ask to end.
ZBA meeting and content. So it sounds like we're getting close. This is tied into the zoning map update, which, again, I think is critical. We don't have an accurate zoning map for our planning commission and zoning administrator to use. The overlay district violation, and then I think there was an issue that popped up with SCM CCI. It may have been resolved, but there was an issue about non-conforming land where someone wanted to improve their house, but their land was non-conforming because they're ag and they didn't have enough road frontage. And there was a whole bunch of discussion about that, and it's probably a separate issue for a separate time, but so we don't have a date yet, right?
It's going to be in July, but Joanna wanted to take the issue. There was one of the issues, I believe, Nick helped me, that she wanted to take before the planning commission before it comes to the ZBA. And of course, for the ZBA to notice it in our meeting, we have to put that in the public notice of the meeting, which has to be issued ahead of the meeting. So as soon as I get confirmation from Joanna when that's going to come up at the planning commission, we can start getting notices around. July meeting.
I think she's hopeful that it's gonna happen at the planning commission in July, but
As far as I know, I think I'm meeting with her and Dwayne on Monday to discuss, and that will be in preparation for the July PC meeting. And then
The ZBA can occur after that.
Yeah.
isn't there something like you gotta give 3 weeks notice?
Yeah,
So you might have,
and it has to be specific. You have to do that and you have to notify property owners within X number of feet. So.
and then the last item was just it's along the same line, the PA 425 lists, just kind of bringing that to a head. But I know that's tied in with the map. And it's a little more complex because there's start dates, there's that part.
All right. Move on to the motion to approve the following agenda items. The old unfinished business and a new business. Motion for that,
I'll make a motion.
there's support.
Or
Those in favor signify by saying aye.
We usually discuss those items
Oh, yeah.
first before we
Oh, like,
Well, I just, we approved, yeah,
because we approved the agenda, so this is actually approving those items.
yeah. Slow me down, we'd be done.
yeah.
Okay, old unfinished business minutes of the 5/19/25 regular board meeting. Those are attached. Do you have anything on those? Number 2 is a proposal to build white roofing for re-roofing related work for the Township Hall meeting room using Certainty landmark shingles in the amount of $15,648 as recommended by consultant Ryan Harvey.
Is this the time for discussion?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so I did have a question, what the warranty was on those shingles. I didn't see it on the quote. And I know I've worked with Certainty 3 times and, you know, they have different warranties, on their shingles. So, and they have, obviously they have different quality of shingles too, so I think my suggestion would be, we kind of have an idea of what level of shingle we're getting and what the warranty is. The other question I had was gutters. Don't we have gutters? Don't we have gutters on the roof as well? Because a lot of times, you know, when they're replacing, I don't know if, yeah, so they're tearing off, and so a lot of times the gutters get destroyed. You know, tear off, but, I guess I didn't know where the gutters fell into that. They've got to at least be, I would think, taken off. Put the good bed on and everything, but I didn't see that in the quote.
No, we didn't ask for that.
And I'm not familiar with Billy White roofing, but, so my question is, you know, I really appreciate Ryan, you know, putting that together, that kind of assessment. If we've kind of narrowed it down to a shingle roof, would there be any value in going out and specifically getting quotes on shingle roof, or do we feel like Billy White is good enough? But that's all I had.
Well, I think we'll, you know, that we would put, that any approval would be subject to clarification of the warranty issues. So, you know, what we got we did not quote getting, new gutters. So I imagine they will be taken down,
And put back up.
but we'll get that clarified.
I mean, do we know Billy White roofing, or is that?
Apparently does a fair amount of, they do a fair amount in the Marshall area. Carl seemed to be familiar with them with regard to issuing of permits.
Yeah, because he based his things on the amount of permits or
Yeah,
the people that.
hold the
Yeah,
most permits.
My only experience with them driving down the highway, they got a billboard, so if that means it.
You got what?
A billboard.
Okay.
Yeah, I think as long as we get that clarified, just so that we know what we're getting and what we're not, I think that.
Yep.
That would be a nice amendment. I don't know if that's an amendment, but yeah.
Okay. Number 3, transferring dedication of the fire station 1 from the current facility to the new facility in memory of the former fire chief, Paul Kiesling.
We just wanted to make sure that it's technically on the record that that particular facility was dedicated to the memory of former Chief Kiesling, who was also Dave's deputy supervisor for a number of years. And we want to transfer that to the new building when that occurs.
Is there like a plaque or something?
Yeah, there's a nice plaque with his picture
Make sure. it
and
gets
all that
moved.
sort of stuff. Yeah.
Sounds great.
Okay, you want on new business? Checks issued, lists be furnished.
It's here and it's in the amount, total amount of $60,242.13.
Okay,
Which includes quite a bit of it was project advances for the 3 road projects.
Two quick questions. I was a little bit shocked with about the MTA. I guess I'll call it. Dude, $5,500. So it must be like the super, we have the super deal with them.
We do. We have I think this is the 2nd or 3rd year, it's the unlimited access to all their training sessions.
And I have used those. They're actually pretty helpful.
This year, we might want to look at that or the step down version of it. But as long as we're all in the learning process yet, I thought it would probably be a good idea.
It's useful.
Yeah.
Useful.
The other one I had was first class lawn care, like $1,591 for the cemetery. Do we pay that? Do we pay that every month?
No, that's also fire station 2 and the town hall.
Okay, so this is basically all our
It's
property.
all our properties.
And is that a monthly fee?
A monthly fee during like April, May, June, July, August, September, a little bit of November.
So the cemetery was like $1,100 or something.
By the way,
What's that?
this is we had paid to get that wall done. Looks good.
Yeah.
Yeah, you did a great job.
okay. Number 5, the 2025 streetlight assessments as recommended by the budget officer.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
So my only question is when I'm transferring, so I've created the 2025 tax database. One of my last things besides is to put in or transfer over the special assessments. And I was nervous about that because we have a lot of special assessments in the system. And I need some confidence that either what I'm transferring from last year is correct. And that I assume that like for streetlights that maybe we index them up every once in a while because consumer charges us more, but
Yeah, we're still within that budget, which would allow the same assessment as last year.
so, and not trying to get us off track here, but, so what I'm hearing you say is street light assessments, we have the road assessment, which again.
Would be on the December tax bill.
Right, but that also is only for a certain time period, so I'd kind of like to know when that ends, so I can.
It's annual, yeah, that would be on the assessment roll that'll come in November for that.
After this.
Well, what I'm saying is
Okay, what
if,
payment?
if it was a 10-year, let's
It
say,
was a 10-year.
okay, when does that
This will
10-year
say-
end?
This will say that when the assessment rolls say what number the payment is.
Okay,
I think
and that's in November? you
it's
said?
about 6 or 7.
And that's in November?
Yes.
Okay.
For the street.
Okay. So I basically, and then the drain assessments
Drains.
come from the
And
county,
that's in November for the December tax bill too. And that comes from the county.
right? Okay. So I can pull for summer, I can pull all the assessments over for
It'd be just the streetlights.
streetlights, yeah?
Yep.
Okay.
Now, for discussion purposes, I propose the Michigan Avenue Streetlight District is a mess, as we all know. And many of the streetlights have been temporarily removed. Where they're gonna be located, when has not been decided, from my understanding. Whether we're gonna continue with the Michigan Avenue Streetlight District, because it involves now what'll be Old Michigan Ave or whatever they decide to name it. So, given the relatively small amount, I was suggesting that we not assess that this time around. But if we assess it again next summer, then we'll have, if there's any deficit, the bill's gonna go down, but I don't know how much it's gonna go down and because we don't know how long it's gonna be.
So is this something we pay as a township or are these properties that are assessed?
The township pays consumers and Marshall City Electric for the streetlights. The township maintains, for our general streetlight district, we have 17 streetlights at road intersections, which are not we pay out of the general fund. And then there are 316 buildable property parcels within the township general public street lighting district. And of that, our policy has been that property owners pay 85% of the cost of maintaining those street lights, operating those street lights. And then the township pays from the general fund 15%. The Michigan Avenue Streetlight District, the property owner apportionment has been 75%, with the township general fund paying 25%, because there's quite a bit of that was street light or public right of way, as opposed to.
Does that include the park and ride and everything?
Yeah. And we got rid of the park and ride is gone.
Well, it's gonna be right over.
There.
You're expecting somebody to pay for the electricity.
Well, to be determined.
Yeah, their statement was that the township would take those. funds.
Yeah, right.
City property.
Yeah, we are. Nope. So that's why it was because most of the streetlights in that district are not, at least temporarily, working. It's difficult to figure out what a fair assessment would be. So it was my thought that we proceed with the general streetlight district, and maintain the per parcel assessment at $36.21, which is the same as last year. And that for the Michigan Avenue Streetlight District, that we not provide a special assessment for that for the 2025 tax year only.
So how do I identify those parcels? Are you saying that we wouldn't send on our tax bill, we
We would
wouldn't
not
have
put them on the tax bill. Yeah, we would
for
not put
those
this
parcels?
for those parcels. So you would be working with Dan on is to tell Dan to transfer over for the summer taxes, the general streetlight district assessments at the same rate as last year. And tell him not to transfer the Michigan Avenue because if that's the decision of the board, we would not be assessing those.
And just to be clear, those lights aren't currently on or they're not being used or?
Some of them are, but some of them are not. And then when they switch lanes, they'll be putting more of the lights out. The only ones that'll be left is 2 or 3 here on Old Michigan Avenue until it's decided what's gonna happen and who's gonna pay for the new road ones. And that discussion, near as I know, hasn't been had.
Be 2027 or 28 by the time all that gets done.
Okay, so the general street assessment, 3621, that's gonna carry over. No Michigan Avenue assessment, and you think those are two separate?
Those are two separate, yeah, they're two separate assessment codes.
We've got a whole
Taxes.
list of assessment codes.
Oh, yeah.
That are,
Yeah, because the county changed, most of them are like duplicates and triplicates of drains because the county changed their coding. And the system retains it because you have to have it retained for past history.
Right. Annual renewal of insurance coverages as recommended by the Chapman Agency effective 7/1/25 in amount $51,968.
so is this what we're gonna review on the 24th?
Well, you're gonna review the overall, the whole overall insurance program, but our policies are up July 1st. And he has not recommended any changes in coverages or anything here. And our premium for the current year totaled approximately 49,000. So it's one of the lesser increases we've had in some time. This would all make more sense after his discussion, one way or the other, we have to do the policies.
Right, I mean, I did see quite a bit of towards the back of the policy on embezzlement and things that had to do with money, so I'm assuming we're in good shape.
Yeah.
Fine.
All right, and number 7, this is my fault because I didn't ask Mike about it, and I got a supervisor recommendation that trustee Wainwright be designated as board liaison to the fire board. So we had somebody at the fire board meetings.
Yeah, I'm open. Is that like a person on the board or is that, I guess what is the question?
It wouldn't be a voting position. It would just be somebody at the board for information for the board. And I mean, you could,
Okay,
you can.
Yeah. No, yeah, I hear what you're saying. Yeah, I'm willing to go to them.
Okay,
Are we seeing there's not an appetite to actually put a board member on that board?
Well, I would be in favor of putting a member on the board when the term comes up. There's no requirement by law, unlike the planning commission, where there's a requirement to have a voting board representative on the board. The fire board is supposed to be an autonomous authority entity of the township. And there have been members of the board on there, and sometimes there are not. But I think that, that could be done when there's a vacant, when the next vacancy arrives on it.
Or it could be done anytime, right? At the board's discretion.
Well, I mean, you would have to remove a current member
Correct.
of the fire board and you'd have to have cause to do that.
Well, I don't know that the procedure says we have to have cause.
Okay, well, you're the lawyer, I'm not.
No, I'm just saying, I don't think it says that.
I'm willing to be the liaison,
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
so I'm willing to do that.
All right. Then, I recommend that, trustee McWoods be designated as a board liaison to the county road department meetings, and we've talked about that. All right,
I'm still willing.
Right.
I'm still willing.
Okay.
good. Thank you. Is there any other matters that need to be brought before the board?
I have a couple, right
Okay.
quick. As far as the new structure of the PA 425 subcommittee, should we send a formal letter of introduction to the city manager?
I think we need to, and then are you including the water line in your 425 or?
Good question.
Well, that was part of the, what
Discussion.
Rob had suggested, I think, back in December 2nd. So I wouldn't see any reason to change it, but
Yeah, I think they kind of go hand in hand in some aspects of the negotiations between them. So,
I wouldn't go that far myself, but
that's just what Rob said. That's all. So, I mean,
I don't remember. I remember December 2nd, but
Yeah.
any conversations from then has been overshadowed by so much. But I
if
think,
you want to do it separate, that's
No,
up to you.
I'm just throwing it out there for discussion,
Yeah.
so. I think that, as a board, we should meet with the law firm in a strategy session of some sort, just to refresh everybody and see, where we're headed, where we want to go.
I thought that's part of what the subcommittee was tasked to do. December 2nd.
Like I said, December 2nd was what,
Well, I think
7
that's when
months
it
ago.
came up, right? We talked for quite a long period of time about the PA 425s, and the recommendation that Rob made was create a subcommittee and go out and do the work, and then come back to the board. And surely the lawyers would be part of that to make some proposals on, what you.
The subcommittee is not making any decisions.
Right.
So I want to make that clear. The subcommittee is not
Oh,
making decisions.
Have no authority to make any decisions.
Exactly.
It's
We're
just-
literally just communicating to understand where the city is, to understand where our law firm's at, to be able to have a conversation, to be able to come back to the report, to be able to make a decision, I think is what I saw it as. But again, we don't have, so you're not going to be outside of the loop. It's just giving us the okay to go to them to start conversations. With the city. And again, it's to understand where things are at, to talk with them, to see, to understand the status of the intergovernmental, cooperativeness, to understand how they see, what their views are of the 425 master agreement, to understand their feelings on all the different things and the languages involved, But it's not making decision, it's just
No, I understand.
information gathering to bring back to this board.
And one other thing, Jeff, on the website, underneath the ordinances, the search link, the search bar under township ordinances doesn't work.
Thank you.
Noticed that this afternoon. So,
Okay.
That's all I got.
Okay.
Just one other quick question, Jeff. I'm recording tonight. So that's exciting. We're recording live and we are gonna post it eventually. We have a YouTube channel that we'll be posting it to. Do I need to contact Rick to figure out how to go about getting that posted on the website or? Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
I just want to make sure
Yeah.
the right channels, I'm going
Right,
through the
yeah,
right channel.
yeah, go ahead.
Okay, okay. I just,
Please.
yeah, I didn't know if like, I'm like, what? Okay, cool. So, like communications with them on that.
Is there any more discussion on?
I have one more, sorry. I had another board member comments. I mislabeled it, whatever. Several months ago, I emailed Jim Durian. Everybody knows the big pit over on 13 Mile Road in Bentley, just south of Eden and stuff like that. I mentioned they had put a fence up before covering that pit area. So they had a lot of people go in and out and get hurt and stuff like that. So I emailed him to see about getting a fence put in to cover that pit, big pit area. And I noticed weekend before, I noticed that the fence now encloses that pit area. So, and he agreed with me, it's just safer for everybody concerned. So. That's my last one.
Ready for roll call vote? Okay,
Treasurer Kowalski,
Yes.
trustee Woods,
Yes,
trustee Wright,
Yes.
supervisor Bossard,
yes.
and I'll vote yes. 5 yes.
We'll open up the public comments this time. Dwayne?
Dwayne Sly, Marshall Township. Just a couple thoughts I had on the transfer of the fire station. Maybe before you call the lawyer and have to pay him to give you an opinion on it, you might want to talk to the electrical inspector because I can't believe he would sign off a final inspection without all the electrical work being done. I mean, it'd be worth a call. Second of all, until the zoning board of appeals meets and either grants or doesn't grant a variance, that's a non-conforming lot. So I wouldn't take possession of it until then either. I mean, it's a red tape thing, but I think I think that's a technicality that, you know, I think would be worth investigating. Just my thoughts.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, Rick?
Rick Sadler, Squaw Creek. I have a question, if I may, about the street light assessment. You're not gonna charge these folks up here, am I correct, a special assessment? But everybody else has to pay for their lights? Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, we usually don't answer questions, but I'll help.
Well, I mean, you can answer it later or
No, no,
whatever. I'm just
I
putting
think
it out
we'll
there.
do it now. Only in the Michigan Avenue streetlight, which is a very small district here.
Right, but I'm assuming that I'm in some
You're
street
in-
light
You're
district.
in the general streetlight district.
Okay, but
It
I
has
still
nothing
have to
to-
pay 75% of the cost, is
You
that?
still have to, you would still be assessed your $36.21 because your streetlights are operational.
Okay. Second thing, thank you for that, by the way.
Yep.
I think what is being missed in this discussion about job descriptions and all that is the fact that not this board, but the previous board passed a motion that said that the office manager works Monday through Thursday. not fulfilling that obligation. Doesn't matter what the job description is if he's not doing the job. It's like Mick. Mick, I'm assuming you were an NCO, correct? Same thing. It's the exact same thing. He's not fulfilling the obligation, excuse me, that he was hired to. Doesn't matter what the intent of the whole thing was. The fact is, the motion passed Monday through Thursday. And now $47,000 a year, back to. So, and there's a thing, I've been in management for coming up on 40 years now, unfortunately. There's a line at the end of every job description that I've ever seen. All tasks as assigned. Blanket statement covers a lot of stuff. Why doesn't it apply here? Maybe public service is different than private management or whatnot, but I just don't get what is so hard about separating the two issues. I mean, is it, I mean, I don't know. It's beyond, I guess, my scope of comprehension at this time, because it seems very simple. Black and white is black and white. Y'all agreed to it, hold it.
Anybody else?
Julie Bryant, Squaw Creek. On June 4th, I was invited to testify at an oversight committee on corporate subsidies and state investments, and to give them my experience with the Marshall mega mess. At that meeting, it was brought up that that MEDA sent 100 signatures from Marshall city leaders and business owners that signed in support of the Marshall mega mess, stating that this project is needed and wanted. They published that list of names, and just like the 100 letters that were presented on May 3rd of 2023 by Mayor Schwartz, these were signed form letters. They were not signed by local residents. They were signed by the mayor of Albion, the mayor of Battle Creek, people on the committee for MEDA, a few business owners that feel they'll profit from this mess, and also our very own Marshall Township clerk, Jeff Albaugh. The Oversight Committee is having a third hearing on June 25th. We'd like to let Lansing hear from the actual residents by sending a short email to let them know how the residents actually feel regarding the CCP involvement, the national security issues, corporate welfare issues, and environmental issues. Please send a short email before 5:25 to Steve, CARRA @house.mi.gov. So that's Steve, STEVE, CARRA @house.michigan.gov. Also, one other thing that I don't have here is that I want you guys, all of you, to think about when you were putting together your campaign to come here and represent us. Okay? I'm feeling like there's a lot of backbiting going on up here. I feel like there's like people are ganging up on other people up here, but I don't feel as a resident that I'm being represented. Okay, so maybe you guys need to think about that and say, am I doing what the residents want me to do, or am I making up my own mind on things? Because that's not what you're elected to do. You're here to represent the residents. Bottom line. Thank you.
Else? Yes, we're adjourned. Board member, we had those. Board member comments. I'm good. All right.